Hello, thank you for stopping by. I'm so glad you're here because today I'm going to be choosing a vintage recipe at random and making it. Here's how this works. I have a collection of vintage cookbooks right here behind me, and I have a little bowl here with pieces of paper that have recipes from those cookbooks written on them. I will choose one of these pieces of paper at random, find the recipe in the corresponding cookbook, and make it. Will it be delicious? Will it be terrible? It is the luck of the draw. Let's get started. What have we got? Talk about good Carnival Casserole. That sounds like an interesting one. So this is a cookbook that I recently found called Talk About Good, and it was printed by the Service League of Lafayette, Louisiana. I really love these type of cookbooks, just a local organization printing the recipes that they love. And coming from Lafayette, Louisiana, it's got a lot of really interesting Creole and Cajun recipes in it. There's some really good Creole Cajun home cooking in this book. So let's find Carnival Casserole and see what that is. We've got cakes, canapé candies, caramel, catfish, cauliflower, celery. Let's tackle this from another angle. I'm going to look through all these categories and sort of figure out which one maybe the Carnival Casserole is in. Mardi Gras here. Carnival sounds like Mardi Gras. Gumbo, soups, salads, and salad dressings. That doesn't sound right. Let's look in meats and see maybe it's in meats. Filet de boeuf. Yes, Carnival casseroles. Sorry, but not easy to find. Not easy to find. 2 tablespoons of corn oil. I got peanut oil. I'll use that. Chopped onion, okay. A 1/4 cup green pepper. We'll need a pound of ground beef, a 1 pound 12-ounce can of tomatoes, salt, chili powder, pepper, bay leaf, cornstarch, 3 cups of cooked shell macaroni. I actually have that on hand because I just made mac and cheese, and 1 cup of shredded cheddar cheese. Okay, reading through this recipe, it sounds like I'm gonna need whole tomatoes in a can because you're reserving juice from it, so I don't want crushed. It also calls for corn syrup, which is not listed in the ingredients. So I was editing this recipe and I realized that I was pretty confused reading through it. For some reason, I was rushing, I think. It does call for a 1/2 cup of all-purpose syrup in the ingredients list. I don't know how I missed that. When I was reading through the directions, it says a 1/2 cup of syrup. And in my mind, I confused cornstarch and syrup and came up with corn syrup. So I don't know what I was thinking. I was just rushing through it, which is not how you're supposed to do things. So later in the recipe, I end up using corn syrup, but it is supposed to be a 1/2 cup of simple syrup. The biggest difference that makes in this recipe is the level of sweetness. The simple syrup would probably have been a little bit sweeter, and it wouldn't have been quite as thick, but it doesn't make a huge difference in this application. All right, this seems very different from anything I've had, actually, but it sounds really interesting. I'm excited to try a recipe from this cookbook, and I look forward to trying more as the days go by, because I think it's really interesting. Okay, we're going to go to the store, get the ingredients we need, we're going to come back, and we're going to start cooking. Back from the grocery store, I got some ground beef. This is 0.91 pounds of a 90-10 ground beef. That's the closest I could get to a pound without going over. And as expensive as this stuff was, I wasn't gonna buy 1.3 pounds. I got some peeled tomatoes in a can. This is a 1 pound, 12-ounce can. So it is interesting that this can size is still the same as it was when this recipe book was printed. One of the very few things where the sizes hasn't decreased significantly. Shredded cheddar cheese, a red bell pepper because they were on sale for the exact same price as green bell peppers, so why not? Got an onion. Whoop. And I already had the noodles and some cornstarch. That's most of what I'm going to need besides seasonings. So let's get started with some prep, and then we'll move back to the stove, cook a little bit, and then assemble the casserole and bake it. I'm gonna need 3 cups of macaroni. I need to drain this can of peeled tomatoes and reserve the liquid. All right, this wasn't the kind of juice I was expecting. I think maybe I got the wrong kind of tomatoes. It doesn't specify, it said canned tomatoes. 1 pound, 12-ounce can of tomatoes, that's what I got. I'm just gonna fish the tomatoes out and put the liquid in there. And I need a bigger holder. I got this for the tomatoes. I don't know why I didn't use it. Just making a mess here. Also, why do I not have an apron on with the white shirt? All right, I had this cup. I had this out to measure this into. I'm just gonna keep going. I'm losing focus here. I need to keep going. I don't know what's so complicated about opening a can of tomatoes, but I am already falling apart here. Tomatoes done. Time to chop up a bell pepper and an onion. I only need a 1/4 cup of chopped bell pepper, so I'm just cutting up half of it. And I'm not being fussy. That's more than a 1/4 cup, but it's fine. Okay, and I'm gonna cut half an onion too. Again, it'll be more than a 1/4 cup, but it's fine. Chopping an onion make me cry all the time. Chopping an onion makes me cry all the time. Ah! Y'all didn't see that. I really need to take a knife skills class. These are getting cooked together, so I'm just putting them in here together. I think that's all I need for prep, so it is time to move back yonder to the stove. I got 2 jiggers of oil that I'm gonna heat up. The noodles are done, dude. This pan's screaming hot now. Let's put some ground beef in it to brown it. Okay, I've browned this beef just a little bit. I'm gonna add in the tomatoes and peppers, or the onions and pepper. What now, what now, what now? Half cup of all-purpose syrup is on here. Okay. All-purpose syrup. What the hell is all-purpose syrup? Surely it's not maple syrup. What is all-purpose syrup? It's calling it simple syrup. I'm using corn syrup. Right, I had technical difficulties. I don't know where my brain is today. The 1/4 cup of liquid that I reserved from the tomato can, all's good. It's the right can of tomatoes, it's the right liquid. I just set aside a 1/4 cup of it, and I mixed 2 tablespoons of cornstarch in there. That's all that happened while the camera was off. We're adding half a cup of corn syrup in here, which is really weird to me. The seasoning levels seem a little bit low, but I'm gonna follow them. So we've got 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of chili powder, 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper, and a bay leaf. When this is boiling, we're gonna mix in that sauce that we reserved and mixed with cornstarch, and we're gonna blend that in. Bring this back to a boil to thicken up. Now we mix the sauce and the noodles and put it in a casserole dish. Okay, put that into the casserole dish. Then we're topping this with cheese. And this goes into the oven at 350 for 30 minutes, and we'll see how it goes. I'm going to clean up this mess. I'll come back when it's time to eat. Hopefully this is tasty. It is such a strange idea to me, very different than anything I've had before, but it sounds really unique. Creole cooking tends to be pretty tasty in my experience, and I've had one other recipe from this book that was like an eggplant and shrimp thing, which was beyond delicious. Also nothing I'd ever had before, but crazy good. So I'm excited to try something else from this book. Well, that looks good and hot to me. Sizzling. Woo. I know that this is psychotically hot right now, and I am not going to burn my mouth, as I have a tendency to do. It doesn't hold together as a square or a slice like some casseroles do. It's more of a scoop out a portion situation, which is fine. It smells delicious, very strong tomatoey smell to it, which makes sense. Definitely looks like the sort of thing you'd get at a church potluck, something like that. I got a bite here, trying to get a little bit of everything in it. Cheese, tomato, noodle, beef. I'm just gonna let it cool off a little bit. Cheers. It's delicious. It is not sweet like I was worried about with all that corn syrup in there. It doesn't taste sweet at all. So I guess the other flavors in there balance out that sweetness a little bit. The flavors in it are all mild, but they are also complex and diverse. There's a lot of different tastes going on, which is pretty standard for most of the Creole recipes that I've ever had. The Cajun recipes tend to be a bit spicier and more heavily seasoned. The Creole tend to be a lot more mellow, but more complex. More heavy influence from the French cuisine. I'm not an expert. If I'm wrong, please correct me, but that's what I have heard. So mostly it is the bright tomatoey flavor and ground beef. The seasonings, the pepper, the chili powder really sort of disappear. They're sort of balanced out by the sweetness of that corn syrup to where they just make sort of a subtle tastiness, a subtle savoriness, I guess. I don't know how else to describe it. For all that it looks like Hamburger Helper, it does not taste anything like Hamburger Helper. It's very delicious. I might put this in my rotation. It's a lot of food. I could probably have cut this in half, but it's tasty. So let's figure out how much this cost. So we have a 1 pound, 12 ounce can of peeled tomatoes in here. I went with the Cento San Marzano tomatoes because I was being a little bit extra. So they were normally $6.99, on sale for $5.99. So this is not going to be cheap already. We had shredded cheddar cheese. It was $3.29 normal. I paid $2.50 on sale, and I used about half of it. So that's $1.25. We had ground beef. That was $6.82 for 0.91 pounds. Ridiculous, but we had a red pepper that was on sale for 99 cents. I used half of it, so let's just round it up to 50 cents. The onion cost 74 cents. I used half of it. Let's just round it up to 40 cents to keep it easy. And then the macaroni noodles, it was $3.49 for that box when I bought it, and I used about 2/3 of it. Let's call that $2.35. And then cornstarch and seasoning, I would say 25 cents for all that, and that's overestimating a bit. We've got $17.56 worth of food in here. You could probably cut back on that by maybe using ground pork or ground turkey instead of ground beef. Also, depending on your grocery store, it's highly likely that you have cheaper ground beef than I do. The grocery store that is close enough for me to walk to is kind of pricey. I could save some money, but it would require like a 20-minute walk versus a 5-minute walk, or taking some buses. So convenience definitely causes me to spend more there than I would otherwise, and they know it. That's why prices are so high. Anyways, buying it cheaper canned tomatoes would also make a big difference. You don't have to buy the San Marzano ones. You could probably cut that in half, shave $2 or $3 off. But even for $17.50, it's still a decent value because there's a lot of food. The recipe says it's 6 servings. This is way more than 6 servings. I would say that this is 12 servings as long as you have a couple of sides to go along with it. So this is simple to make. It is interesting and unique flavors. It's not the most affordable, but it is still reasonably affordable. It's not crazy expensive. I think it's a recipe worth giving another go in the future. It's really delicious. I'd be curious to know if any of you out there have ever heard of this before, ever made it. This was the first time for me. Let me know in the comments down below. If you have liked this video, please give it a like. That helps more than you could know. If you wanted to see more, please subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the future.